Feels like just yesterday, you gorgeous piece of poultry, that the original Nintendo Switch was launched, and I did a gigantic Switch video showing off all the Switches, different models and accessories. And now here we are almost a decade later, and we are soon to get the successor to the original Switch. Even though this is an OLED, it's not an original Switch, but you get my point. You're horrible.
Just look at it as I stretch it.
So, hello, how are you doing?
Hard in your face.
You're probably wondering if I am getting a Nintendo Switch 2. So let's start with that. I am, I think. I had a pre-order at Walmart. I spoke to them today and they canceled my pre-order.
I'd like to belch directly into your face right now.
No, I'm just kidding you. I'm just kidding you. They didn't. Actually, I spoke to a dude. He was very nice.
A nice man.
And he said, look, you saw the charge on your card, right? Yes. We're seeing the charge here, meaning Walmart, the guy from customer service. You're good. It's cleared. We got the money. We have the unit for you. It just may not be there on the 5th. It may actually be there like 48 hours afterwards. I'm like, you know what? Whatever. That's fine. I was going to go out anyway and film me trying to get a Switch at a brick and mortar store. We're probably going to go to, never mind, I'm not going to tell you. And there's no way in hell I'm live streaming it, but we're going to film it and it's going to be a good time. Not really at all. It's actually supposed to be hot tomorrow and I don't really feel like sitting out in the sun, but I'm going to do it anyway for a Switch 2 and for science. Also, too, huge shout out to everyone who checked out my ASMR channel. Random little plug in the middle of this video. I have another ASMR video coming on portable clone consoles like the Trim UI Brick and the, can I get one right now? The Miu Mini and the Miu Mini Plus. I have a lot to say on them. And yes, this time I am going to do a soft-spoken video and not whispered. I listened to the criticisms in the video. As a matter of fact, as you're watching this, I will be recording that video. And I think I'm going to have my groove there. That is the most boomer thing I've ever said. Just Tech25 ASMR. Link to the channel below in the description. Let's see if we get it to 1,000 subs. So it's interesting to look back on the Switch because I was very negative with Nintendo at the time when I started hearing rumors about the Switch. And I was just like, oh God. Well, it was called the Nintendo NX at the time. And I remember sitting there thinking, they're trying to make a portable console that you could dock to the TV. So it's going to be underpowered. It's not going to have games that are going to compete with Sony and Microsoft. I understand Nintendo goes to their own beat of their own drum, but nonetheless, it's like you just had this huge failure with the Wii U. And because you marketed it poorly, now you're going to just put out a portable that you could dock to a TV. What are you doing, Nintendo? Well, I was very wrong about that. Nintendo knew what they were doing. And the Switch has been a wild success with over 150 million units sold. And looking back on the Switch, it's interesting to see the market that Nintendo opened beyond the Switch. The big reason we're seeing consoles from Valve with the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally and the various different GPD models and Aya Neo and a bunch of other companies making portable computers is because Nintendo with the Switch made companies realize, hey, people just want to play the same AAA games they're playing at home on the go. And it's not that this was the first piece of tech to do where, you know, you could play it portably and dock it to a TV. As a matter of fact, NVIDIA, before they joined forces with Nintendo and they made the chip in here for the original Switch, the Tegra X1, and they're making the chip for the Switch 2. There was other forays into the hybrid portable console scene, like there was the tablet from NVIDIA, which you could use with the controller and hook it up to a TV, and you could play games like Half-Life 2. They said with the power of Tegra, you could play games like that. And it was cool. It was like, oh, wow. Especially at the time, this is going back pre the Switch. So that was really bleeding edge tech to be able to play a game like Half-Life 2 on the go and then hook it up to your TV. But it wasn't seamless. No one got the seamless part like the Switch got down, where you just plop this in the dock and then you get the picture right up on your TV, and you could either use your Joy-Cons or a Pro Controller. It wasn't done as well as Nintendo did it. And what was amazing about that too is the games that you saw due to the success of the Switch, that developers really, they got is it a square peg in a round hole? Yeah, I think so. Witcher 3, Doom, and Doom Eternal are the first ones that come to mind. Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, was a pretty sloppy port, but there was also Zombie Army 4, I'm thinking of off the top of my head, and many other games that you would have never thought that you would see running, like Dying Light. I understand it's an 8th gen game, and actually it was supposed to come out in some way, shape, or form for the 360 and PS3, but it's a great port. It's a solid 30 FPS. It looks great. If you're looking for a way and you just have a Switch and don't have a Steam Deck or a device like it, it looks great on the OLED, especially Dying Light, and it's a really well done port. Techland put a lot of their heart and soul into that port, and it shows. So that was one thing that was cool about the Switch, is it was the first time they made a hybrid console that was tolerable. Nintendo, where you could just dock it, pull it out of the dock, and it was instant. And it was a hybrid device where you were getting a decent amount of the AAA third-party experiences, the same ones you have on home consoles, on the go. And we haven't seen it like that before. If you think before the Nintendo Switch, there was the 3DS, the 2DS, the DS, Game Boy, blah, 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 blah. Most of the time, the games were a different experience than you would get on your home console or PC counterparts, because the hardware was so limited. Whereas with the original Switch, yes, the Tegra X1, even when they launched the Switch, was pretty outdated, but nonetheless, it was powerful enough that you were seeing current gen games come to the Nintendo Switch console. Now, as time went on and the Switch got older, and we started going from the late 8th generation to now the 9th generation of consoles, which in my opinion barely feels like it should have existed, you saw less and less ports to the Nintendo Switch. But it was the first time I remember I could not compute that Doom 2016, that just a little over a year before came to the PS4, the same game was coming to the Switch. It was the first time I experienced something like that, and I'm sure it was many other people too. Then we got the Steam Deck, and that was a big deal. Obviously, it hasn't sold as many units as a Switch, but companies realized that people want these AAA experiences on the go. The Switch made the companies realize that, and you started seeing offerings from like GPD and Neo trying to make a PC version of the Nintendo Switch, essentially. And then you had Valve, which really made it happen with the Steam Deck, where with SteamOS, you have a consoleized experience of PC games on the go, or you could actually dock the Steam Deck as well. Now, what's interesting is as much as I was in love with the Switch, especially when it first came out, it was those consoles, like the PC Switch-looking like consoles, that I ended up leaning towards, because most of the games I play, I know Nintendo's IPs are fantastic. I don't care if I'm 50, I'll still be playing platformers from Nintendo. But mostly I like the AAA third-party experiences, games like Elden Ring, Doom, Fear, the list goes on. And those games I could play on the Steam Deck, and I don't have to do port begging. Whereas if you just stick to consoles like the Switch, you got to do that. And later on in the generation, I stopped playing the Switch, and the experiences I could get on PC-based hardware. But we have to remember is that even though I lost interest in the Switch because I could get my experiences I wanted on other hardware, it was because of the Switch, I feel strongly that we got those other pieces of hardware from Valve, from Asus, from GPD, from Aya Neo. If it was not for the Switch, I don't think any of those consoles would exist. Hey everybody, your favorite fat regard from the future, realizing that I didn't talk about my Switch 2 predictions, which would have essentially made this video useless. I never said I wasn't an idiot, but here are my predictions. So do I think the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be a successful piece of hardware for Nintendo? Yes, I think it is going to sell well. However, with that being said, I don't think it is going to do original Switch numbers. It's essentially going to be Nintendo's 3DS to Nintendo's DS. The Switch 2 is going to be the 3DS, and the original Switch, in terms of sales numbers and relevancy, is going to be the DS. And I could be wrong about that, and maybe the Switch 2 will outsell the original Nintendo Switch, but I just don't think so for several factors. And the first one being is the price of the Nintendo Switch 2. The bare bones kit or setup or whatever the hell you want to call it is $450 US. And if you want to get it with Mario Kart World, which is the better value, if you could find that whole pack or whatever the hell it is $499 US. The original Switch was $299 US. You are almost asking double the price. Okay. 2/3, I don't know, whatever. It's $200 more than the original Switch. It's $499 or $150 more. Oh my God, I can't math. Shut up. So you have that going against it. It's going to cost more. Games are going to cost more. People aren't happy with the key cartridges, which essentially is a way to have a physical access code to your game, but it doesn't actually have the game on the Switch 2 key cart. It's just like having a USB drive. It has the license for the game on there, and if you don't have the card, you can't play the game even if you have it downloaded. I mean, it's better than having just a piece of paper and a code inside of a Switch box. A lot of companies did that, but I understand it's a sign that we're essentially seeing it's all but dead physical media. And if for the collectors out there, I totally understand why you hate that and you think it sucks. But with that being said, it is the Switch 2. They did do substantial updates to the hardware, which had a little bit more GPU grunt, but nonetheless, here we are. They have things like 120 hertz screen, HDR10, and they have Dusk Bloods coming from Software, and you're going to have Elden Ring on there, even though you could play that 1,000 different ways. Speaking of which, I almost forgot to bring up this point. Here's another reason why the Switch 2 may not sell as well. Now, I'm looking right here on the screen. I understand the Steam Deck did not do Switch numbers. It's sitting at around 4 million units sold, but that did open up doorways for consumers who, before handhelds like the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally, GPD Win, the whole list I've named before, the Switch was the only place that was a go-to place for AAA games that gave you the full experience, just with pared down graphics on the go. I remember Doom 2016 was announced for the Switch, and I almost crapped my pants. Turds just started flying everywhere, and it was tragic. Turds. But that was a mind-blowing thing at the time. It wasn't normal to get the same full-fat AAA experience on the go. Now in 2025, people don't think anything of it. And with the Steam Deck especially, you have a consoleized gaming, PC gaming experience on SteamOS. And SteamOS is coming to other hardware from Lenovo, like the Legion Go, another console Switch-like PC handheld. And it's also on the ROG Ally X, which I have one of those. I probably should put SteamOS on there. So you get my point. So people who may have just been into like getting The Witcher 3 and playing it on the Switch and other games like that, due to the other hardware choices, which were, let's keep it real, inspired by the Nintendo Switch, there's more choices. There's more options than just Nintendo's hardware. and people are like, hey, I don't have to port bag. I have a Steam Deck and I have an ROG Ally or a Lenovo Legion Go S, and I can play whatever PC games come out so long as these Lenovo Legion Go can handle it on Steam anywhere I go, and I don't have to be in Nintendo's walled garden. So those were things that weren't even a thought when the original Switch came out. You have the more expensive price. You have other options out there. Again, even though they don't sell as nearly as much as the Nintendo Switch did. So that may break up the pie for Nintendo, whereas many other people in 2017, this was their go-to AAA handheld gaming device. However, I do think the Switch 2 will do big numbers. It has the third-party support, like I said, and the price for what you're getting isn't completely out of control. It's still a lot more expensive than the original Switch, but it's fair. 2025, everything's expensive and everything sucks, so there's that too. One thing I wanted to mention too, and it makes you realize how time flies and how something like a console could send you, when there is a successor and you think of the previous console, could kind of send you back in a time warp. In a weird way, it feels like just yesterday when the Switch came out. But when you really think about it, it wasn't just yesterday. I think back to 2017, and yeah, that was 2 homes ago I was in. My first son was not even a year old. There were people that were here that are no longer here, and so many aspects of my life have changed. And you don't think about that when you're holding what's a current gen piece of hardware. It's just something that you play games on, and it's a means to an end. And it's not that I'm getting sentimental over the Switch. I'm not in the slightest. But when a new piece of hardware comes out, you close your eyes and you think back to that, and it kind of puts you back in that place where you were when the console originally launched, and you're like, oh my God, things have really changed. So it's not necessarily the hardware that you're getting sentimental about. It's not with me anyway. This launch, I'm in a much different place in my life than I was when the Switch 2 launched. And it makes you realize how fast time flies. So this is Rich Tomorrow, signing out. Hopefully you get a Switch 2. One way or the other, like I said, I'm getting one. Just hopefully Walmart doesn't cancel my order completely. Because even though they said they're not going to, and the guy was very nice on the phone, I don't trust Walmart. Anyway, make sure you sub to the channel. Make sure you sub to Tech25 ASMR, and I'll be streaming again real soon. And one way or the other, when I get the Switch 2, I'll stream some Mario Kart World. Have a good one, everybody. Hey, if you watched the whole video, what the hell are you doing? You're not subbed yet? Click that sub button. I live stream here all the time. We have a good time. Make sure to become a subscriber. It's free. Click the button now and hit that bell too. Be a man.